What if Kyurem was in Gen 1 OU? Going from one of the most, I don't want to say bad, not even mediocre, but one of the most disappointing legendaries to becoming way too strong and getting banned, and then getting to whatever the heck Gen 9 is. I remember when Kyurem was only just a lackluster Pokemon during the Gen 5 and Gen 6 days, but it has made quite a name for itself. But how would it do in Gen 1? That is a really good question, but one that I don't think takes too long to figure out the answer to. Like, look at these stats here. The worst thing it has is 90 defense, which is just amazing. And along with that, has so many of the things that you could just abuse very well in Gen 1. For example, he has Blizzard, which obviously is really good, but with 90 accuracy, 120 base power instead of 110 base power like in regular gens, and with 130 special attack, you are dominating everything. Or almost everything. Some things do have high special, and some things do resist ice, such as Cloyster. But you have Psychic, which is just a really good neutral move. And at first, I thought you wouldn't really use Psychic, but I kind of forgot that you have Pokemon like Gengar you have to deal with. And obviously with Gengar, having super effective coverage is really good. You would prefer Earthquake, but Kyurem doesn't warrant Earthquake. It only warrants Earth Power. At least in Gen 5, which is the moveset that I'm using. It could be different in other gens, but I'm pretty sure it isn't. Another move it has that's really good for abusing Gen 1 mechanics is Slash. I didn't actually realize it had Slash at first. When I was first talking about making this video in my Discord server, it was Great Gusto that told me that he had Slash. Originally, I was going to have Strength. And with Strength, I was going to say that Kyurem is nowhere near like an unbeatable Pokemon. One with very clear weaknesses. Because even with 130 attack, with Strength, it's not like the most threatening thing in the world to Chansey. Could very well still stall it out, but nothing that you would comfortably rely on, I would say. But no, with 95 speed, Slash is a guaranteed auto crit, so it basically has a 140 base power move with 130 attack. If that sounds good, that's because it really is. At 125 HP is also just insane for the time. Along with its defenses, it's incredibly bulky. So this thing is taking a lot of hits too. And you're going to see in the replays, this thing can take strong stab and then be hit with a crit, or be hit with explosion or self-destruct, and it still survives. Which also makes rest really good, because with those bulky stats, you can very easily survive turns, and you can just rest off and just go back to square one when it comes to your opponent. Not to mention, its typing is also just very bulky for the time. I've done enough of these videos to where I definitely feel like the Dragon type in Gen 1 is very hit or miss. Sometimes defensively it's great and it helps you out with so many different Pokemon resistances, and then other times it's a huge hindrance, giving you a very crippling weakness towards ice. And just like Articuno, Kyurem here is a legendary ice type that does kind of struggle from not having a resistance to ice, only hitting it neutrally. But then again, what really wants to fight Kyurem with Blizzard? Definitely not Tauros. I guess Amnesia Wax with Ice Beam can do a lot of damage, but if Snorlax has max special, at that point, it's not really a detriment to how good Kyurem is if it can't take it on. That's just a Snorlax that you let set up. Cloyster kinda wants to take on Kyurem, and it's probably your best bet. But even with Psychic and Rest, Kyurem can handle Cloyster no problem. You actually have more special attack than Articuno, so you're actually the Pokemon with the strongest special move in the game, not counting Amnesia Boost. And I think the only one that's left would be Jinx, but even with Jinx, you guys have a speed tie, and with Slash, you do way more damage than Blizzard does. Blizzard, I believe, needs a crit in order to 2-KO Kyurem. Speaking of speed, tying with Jinx means not only are you I think you're the 5th fastest Pokemon, 5th or 6th, give or take, but that just gives you a great crit rate as well. So even for your non-slashing moves, such as Blizzard or Psychic, you have a really good chance to get a crit, which makes fighting things like Snorlax with Amnesia a lot easier. So that's good. I'm glad Kyurem had that. It definitely needed that. Now these 4 moves are probably going to be the ones you're using, but some other moves you can use do have some merit. Reflect is good, just to really go in for that whole tank role. And it's very annoying, but also it could be a tank pretty easily. I could definitely see a set where you get rid of Blizzard and you probably get rid of Slash and you go for Substitute, Rest, Ice Beam, Psychic. I don't think it's the best Kyurem set to use, but you can definitely get away with it. And it's kind of similar to some Gen 9 sets, because doesn't Kyurem just run Leftovers? Or not Leftovers, run Substitute unironically in Gen 1? Or not Gen 9, I cannot talk right now, but you get what I'm saying. Either way, not the best Kyurem set you could be using, but definitely the second best. Rock Slide is definitely coverage, but I don't think you need it. Slash does more than enough to Jinx, and if you're just trying to go for a crit Oko, like, I don't know, that doesn't seem very worth it. And I'm pretty sure Psychic is still better in Cloyster as well. And even with Cloyster's not freezing you, you're faster than it, so even if it gets a crit with Blizzard, it's not gonna profit off it. You can stall out Blizzard with Substitute, or not Substitute, with Rest, and you resist Clamp. So, nothing there you really care about. Substitute can still be pretty good though. You can probably replace it with Rest to do just so you can just tank some things and hit really hard. With 125 HP, you're easily making substitutes that take 2 Nightshades or 2 Seismic Tosses to break, which is really good. So, overall, good moves, but I don't think any of them other than Substitute are really worth looking into. And if we were to give this a signature move, Glaciate, I don't think that would make much of a difference either. It's even weaker than Ice Beam, and I don't think Kyurem cares too much about the speed, because a guaranteed speed drop, that's nice, but Paralysis does that way better. And speaking of Paralysis, because of your good typing and your amazing bulky stats, Kyurem doesn't care too much about Paralysis. It probably... You could probably make a good argument that Kyurem gets more free turns than Chansey. Now granted, Chansey is still better, because it just has guaranteed recovery, but still, I can't think of many Pokemon that can really challenge Chansey when it comes to just being a really good bulky Pokemon that gets free turns. Especially with a typing like Dragon Ice. Normally, for anything to even consider being like Chansey, it needs to be a Psychic type, Steel type with rival recovery, or just, the normal type. But Dragon Ice here is really good. You don't have an ice resistance, but you do resist water, you resist electric, which is by far your main resistance. You're neutral to fire, but who really cares? The rock weakness does not matter. Rhydon is not threatening you with Rock Slide. In fact, in contrary, you Oko it with Blizzard, and you probably Oko with Ice Beam as well. Would even be surprised if you Oko with Glaciate. And the resistance for water is also relevant, because one of the few things that can just counter you is Slowbro. But with a water resistance and Rest and potentially Substitute, you are able to stall out Slowbro a little bit. It still probably wins the 1v1, but still, if you're gonna lose to something all the time, at the very least you could be very annoying towards it, which Kyurem does a great job against. The fighting weakness doesn't matter, and there's no dragon move, so... Yeah, I'm pretty sure Kyurem doesn't really have any literal weaknesses in Gen 1. The best you can get is a paralyzed Kyurem, maybe having the Fear Rhydon, but even if it's paralyzed, I would not feel comfortable using Rock Slide on Rhydon. There has to be another way. So overall, a really good Pokemon if you haven't figured that out already. And I'm honestly leaning towards Kyurem getting banned. And if we go over the other forms, which I'm sure I'll go over at some point, those are definitely getting banned. But I just can't think of any real weaknesses that Kyurem has, or any real things that keep it in check. You only have Starmie and Starmie and Slowbro. And even then, like, Kyurem can annoy both of them. But don't believe me? Let's get into the replays, shall we? Now, Tauros here. He's pretty cool. Body Slam doesn't even do 25%. It probably could with a damage range, but I don't think you really care. Even a crit Body Slam is only 44%. So, maybe with Paralysis, or with crits, especially a Hyper Beam crit, you could win. But you are not risking it. Kyurem just way too consistently kills you. Although, I will put in could go either way. Just because it's Tauros, and Tauros typically does Tauros things. Snorlax gets hit with a third when it comes to Blizzard, so definitely doesn't like it. And if it's a physical set, yeah, you probably just want to avoid Kyurem. Granted, Kyurem could also have a damage range there, but like, I don't think you care. I guess this also is a good example of where Substitute could be good instead of Rest. Because like in that moment, if you're calling it's going to go for a Self-Destruct, or if you're calling that Cloyster's going to go for Explosion, I guess Substitute could be a good thing to use there, so you can call it, you don't take that much damage, and you're fine. So yeah, actually, while I'm going over these replays, I am slowly starting to lean towards Substitute. Let me know in the comments below, which do you think is better between Rest and Substitute? Because now I'm starting to feel like both are equally strong. You have Snorlax here going for Amnesia. If it already has Amnesia up, or even 2, obviously does significantly better. But even with those circumstances, Slash still hits a lot. And Thunderbolt, Kyurem, even with Max Special, does not care about being hit by it. Ice Beam is definitely a different story. But with how much you need to set up with Ice Beam, it's not even the best thing in the world. I'm confident that Kyurem could definitely survive. Definitely at least one. And with being able to survive one Ice Beam, you can get 2 Slashes in, which means something can easily revenge kill. So, I think for the tier list, I put Snorlax and could go either way. But now that I'm looking at it, I am definitely more so considering putting this in a good matchup. Kyurem is just way too tanky, it hits way too hard, regardless if Snorlax is hitting on the physical and special side. And Kyurem itself being able to hit really hard on the physical and special side just makes it that Snorlax just can't do anything. Even with Reflect, you're using Slash, so you're hitting through it. So Snorlax just can never be comfortable around Kyurem, and it can't reliably rest off any damage. Because even if you somehow get rid of all the Slash power points, it has a great crit rate. So critting with Blizzard, even with Amnesia boost, is not out of the question. Now next up I have Chansey. And if it was how I originally thought, where Kyurem only had strength, this could be a very different story. But now, with Slash, you 2 KO very, very easily. So Chansey can paralyze you, sure, but what good is that really doing you? Slash is doing so much damage, Chansey is forced to keep going for soft boils until Kyurem gets paralyzed. And this is a replay where Kyurem isn't using Substitute. With Substitute, it becomes just flat out disgusting. And to be honest, maybe you can do Slash, Blizzard, Substitute, Rest? That sounds like it has a lot of merit as well, now that I'm thinking about it. But who knows? To be honest, I actually, even though it's very strong, I would love to put Kyurem in a Generation Jumble. I'm just not sure what would be a good one thematically. Definitely an Uber's format, but even then, I still don't really know. Oh, by the way, speaking of which, you should join my Discord server. I host tournaments based off my what if scenarios, and as we're speaking, we're almost done with Season 4, the Halloween Jumble, and I will be making videos on how that went very soon. But if you want a quick TLDR, both Chansey and Snorlax fell of the Big 5. And that's something I'll explain later. And you should just in general, it's just a fun place to be. We like to play other games like Among Us, or Mario Kart 8, or Gartic Phone, Scribble.io, stuff like that. So, please join. I'd love to have you there. Now back to the video. And, yeah, even without Slash, you can very, very easily fish for special drops with Psychic, which Kyurem can take a lot of advantage of. Now granted, even with special drops, it can't exactly spam blizzards. So part of me wishes you can just go for Ice Beam instead, just for more power points. But while that's definitely a decent upside, you are sacrificing so much power when it comes to giving up Blizzard, that I feel like you just can't really afford to do that. But I guess that's just a good thing that Kyurem here has Slash. Just a very easy and consistent way to deal with Chansey. But even if it didn't have Slash, even if it was using Strength, now that I'm looking at it again, I definitely feel like with just Psychic alone, Kyurem can handle Chansey. Honestly, you probably don't even bother with Substitute. You might not even bother with Hyper Beam. Without Slash, Wizard, Psychic, Rest, Substitute. Yeah, even with just that moveset, that sounds like it's too good for Gen 1 and would get Kyurem banned. Yeah, I'm convinced on that now. There's not much else to talk about. That was just a really long turn. And I guess with this here, like Kyurem, I could probably get killed. But like, it could have just gone for Rest easily. So a good matchup for Kyurem, but I don't think it's a great matchup. And here's Zam. Yeah, it can paralyze, but at that point, even if you get crit Psychics, you're only winning because Kyurem got paralyzed. So that's not to say that Alakazam is a good Kyurem counter. I'm still gonna put this in good though, because you are very likely to get annoyed, and by annoyed, I mean fully paralyzed and they get hit with a crit or a special drop. But that's just Gen 1. You have to accept that sometimes you're gonna, deal with the jank. But that doesn't really make Zam a good Kyurem counter. Nor does Cloyster act as a good Kyurem counter because it quad resists Blizzard. Psychic hits decently enough. Like with... Yeah, even without a special drop, it did 29%. That's honestly pretty good. And Cloyster, even with Explosion, couldn't kill Kyurem. Maybe if there wasn't a special drop, but Here's the Executor. I don't think I need to explain how this is so one-sided. But another thing I want to say, Executor in Generation Jumble Season 4 is another Pokemon that has completely fallen off. Both Executor and Cloyster are actually falling that underused. Again, I'll explain this in a later video. But hopefully it'll saying that we'll start having you ask questions. Unless you just play yourself. Now here's Gengar. And Nightshade is so much worse with Substitute, so this matchup can be even more one-sided. Psychic is just pretty good, especially being a 3-hit KO. 30% of the time, it's actually a 2-hit KO with a special drop. So Gengar's not really doing much. Psychic isn't doing that much, and even then, with both of you using Psychic, special drops at that point are just as good as each other's. Thunderbolt, Kyurem just resists. And considering Cloyster and even Snorlax's explosions Kyurem could survive, it definitely could survive a Nightshade into Explosion, I think. I'd be surprised if Kyurem didn't survive that. Now, Jolteon. You can paralyze Kyurem, but Kyurem cares about paralysis just as much as Chansey does. You definitely could get unlucky, and it could ruin you, but you're probably fine. Just like how Kyurem is probably fine being hit with a double kick. Even crits, I doubt Kyurem cares about. So you just get 2 KO by Slash. There's not much you can do there. Now, let's keep going, shall we? And now we have Jinx. And I forgot to mention it earlier, but a speed tie is kind of annoying. But even though it's a good go either way, and even though Jinx has Lovely Kiss, that has a chance to miss, so does Blizzard. And obviously you don't always crit. It's a good go either way. And Kyurem's advantage, I don't think is enough to change that. But Kyurem is statistically the safer Pokemon to bet on if these two are going to be in a match, since Jinx could very well miss Lovely Kiss. Even if it hits Lovely Kiss, it's just going to be forced to rest. So Kyurem could wake up. It just depends. Now, we're getting close to the end, and this is basically filler. Do I even need to bother showing you Rhydon? You knew how that was gonna work. And I'm gonna have Ricky Bell as well, but like it's more so a joke if anything. Now here's one that I always knew Kyurem wasn't gonna be able to defeat Slowbro, but what surprised me is just how much it was able to drain Slowbro's resources. Unlike Starmie or Chansey, Slowbro does not have Revival Recovery, it only has Rest. And in regular Gen 1, that's not the biggest deal. It naturally has super high defense, and with Amnesia, you're boosting its special. And 80 special isn't even that bad to begin with. But even then, Rest can be taken advantage of, and that's even more so here. Now granted, you don't do enough damage with Slash to where you can just outkill it, but you are able to repeatedly force it to go for Rest, which is honestly a big deal in of itself. Now granted, with Paralysis, inevitably Slowbro will get those extra turns that it needs to set up the rest of its Amnesias or go for Surf, but you have Rest of your own, and some Kyurem sets probably are going to be using Rest and Surf. Now granted, once you have like super high special, you are definitely breaking a sub, but I still think that's probably worth it, right? Going for 2 subs, or actually no, you can go for 3 subs, so I guess that's yet another reason to potentially use Rest and Substitute, getting rid of either Slash or Psychic. And if you are getting rid of those, you are sacrificing something. Though strangely, I feel like you're sacrificing less with keeping Psychic than you are with keeping Slash, since I feel like Kyurem has the opportunity and the tools to stall out Chansey even with just Psychic. That's weird. That's not really how I expected Kyurem to go. But good for him. I'm kind of impressed. Now here's Starmie. And out of all the Pokemon, not counting Slowbro, Starmie by far has the best matchup. And that's because Slash just isn't enough. Starmie can heal off it, which means it can paralyze Kyurem, and it can keep going for recovers until it inevitably gets those free turns. And it will get those free turns. So funny enough, you might just be better trying to fish for freezing. You're probably better at fishing for freezing with Slowbro as well, but I don't know for sure. But even once Starmie has healed off and Slash is, not doing enough damage, granted, if it's Surf Bolt, obviously Kyurem just walls Starmie the heck and back. But I'm gonna be real with you, Surf Bolt has some advantages, but if Kyurem was in the format, you were never using that set. Ever. So with Blizzard and Psychic, those are definitely enough to deal with Kyurem. Because along with being able to fish for Paralysis and just healing off Slash, you can definitely and very easily fish for crits. Getting 2 crits in a row with Starmie is not out of the question. Sooner or later that probably happens and you will defeat Kyurem. And as you see here, Starmie barely lost any resources outside of maybe Psychic. And that was without any special drops actually, so yeah. In some ways, Kyurem got a little bit lucky for that replay. I'm not even sure why I made this replay if Rikibo just missed Razor Leaf. But doesn't matter. Outside of going against, I guess, Slowbro and Starmie exactly, who Kyurem is going to struggle with anyways, Kyurem does not care about Paralysis. And you can put Kyurem to sleep, but Kyurem is not scared of Victory Bell, so yeah, good luck hitting those Razor Leaves. But last but not least, we have Zapdos. And Kyurem resists Electric. It's not caring about Paralysis. And with its high HP and defense, is it really caring about Drill Peck? No. No, it's not. A substitute could survive that without a crit. But I don't think you're surprised. So here is the tier list. And yeah. really busted. I guess you can move this to bad matchup and this to good matchup, but that kind of makes the tier list look even more one-sided in Kyurem's favor, doesn't it? I definitely think Kyurem would be banned, and looking at a tier list like this, I can't think of many people who would argue against me, and I'm sure that the other two Kyurem forms would dominate even more. But now I'm unsure which one would be better. I was confident that it'd probably be Kyurem Black, since it's hitting even harder with physical moves, but I'm pretty sure for both Black and White, it's actually not hitting hard enough to where it's changing the damage ranges considerably, but I could be wrong about that. And I guess with their signature moves like Fusion Bolt and stuff like that, definitely makes a big difference. So actually, yeah, Kyurem Black's probably the better of the two, but we'll find that out later. What do you think? Do you think Kyurem will be fine in OU as one of the best Pokemon, or do you think it would be in Ubers? And if you do put it in Ubers, where would you actually rank it? Now that I'm thinking about it, I probably should have made replays for both Mew and Mewtwo. But oh well, like, I'm sure it doesn't change too much. But that's about it. I am going to try to do daily uploading again. So thank y'all for watching. This is Groundback, and I look forward to hearing from you.